Hey, what's going on, everybody? Um, Today's Tuesday. We're back in action here. We'll be back every Tuesday from here on out, covering whatever happens to be going on in Green Bay Packer world. A lot of weird things have been going on in the world of a Packers fan's life lately. ESPN aired the failed Mary. They aired the 2014 NFC Championship game. Um, for those of you who have watched the Last Dance, Michael Jordan's documentary, or the Chicago Bulls documentary, rather, um, Packers got dunked on in the documentary as well. So it is just a fantastic time to be a Packer fan in the sports world. And speaking of which, I think a report came out today that legendary Packers quarterback Brett Favre, uh, the guy was paid $1.1 million for speeches he did not give in some sort of fraudulent scheme. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel reporting that a nonprofit group got caught in an embezzlement scheme in Mississippi using federal welfare money to pay former Green Bay Packers quarterback Brett Favre $1.1 million for multiple speaking engagements. But Favre did not show up for the events. The state auditor said Monday. Details about the payments to Favre are included in an audit of the Mississippi Department of Human Services. State Auditor Shad White said his employees identified $94 million in questionable spending by the agency. The audit was released months after a former Human Services director and 5 other people were indicted on state charges of embezzling about $4 million. So apparently Brett Favre is in a little bit of a pickle there. Receiving $1.1 million in the Social Security scheme. He's paid for speeches he didn't give. The speeches were apparently scheduled, and they said that they were held, and the agency reported that Brett Favre had given the speeches, but he was never there to give said speeches. So Brett Favre is currently in a little bit of trouble, maybe. At least 1.1 million reasons to be concerned as to what the heck is going on over there with Brett Favre. Brett, I don't know what you're doing in your post-Packer world, but maybe you could come back as some sort of Green Bay Packers quarterback coach or something. I don't know. Maybe not the best technique in the world, but you definitely had a rocket for an arm. So maybe you could show Jordan Love a point or two. Wouldn't that be something? Favre and Rodgers showing the new Green Bay quarterback and Jordan Love how to throw the football. That would for sure be a sight to see. So the Fail Mary game, it aired on ESPN yesterday, and I think Tyler Lockett from the Seahawks, former Seahawks wide receiver, tweeted out that it was a touchdown. We all know MD Jennings caught the ball, and come on. I mean, the Fail Mary is just it's not something to be cherished. It was a terrible game. I remember the Packers literally left the field, came back on the field. Mike McCarthy said it was one of the worst reffing appearances he's ever seen in his entire coaching career. And it was terrible. The Packers, again, got screwed in Seattle like they always do for various reasons. I mean, obviously part of it was their fault, but in my eyes, MD Jennings caught that ball. It was an interception, clearly. The replacement refs were awful. And just another infamous moment the Packers have with the Seattle Seahawks, that is for sure. Moving on, this last week, we at Cream City Central interviewed, Jimmy Christensen from Cream City Central. One of our Packers writers sat down with Packers wide receiver Alan Lazard. Shout out to Alan Lazard for taking the time out of his day to do this. And Alan Lazard has definitely came out of nowhere last year. The Packers signed him off of the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad. And he definitely took a leap, almost a leap of faith, not even a second-year leap like the coaches and staff members and players are looking for. He just flat out leapt out of nowhere and decided he was going to make his own spot under the Green Bay Packers 53-man roster. And he absolutely performed last season at a level nobody thought, clearly not the Green Bay coaches. Here are a few highlights from him last
Funny how they judge you when they see you made a change. I pulled another foe just to take away the pain. My friends were my friends, they was looking for some clout. I had what they wanted, so they always came around. You told me you would be there, but you never held it down. I'm out here being loyal, now I'm looking like a clown. I popped another Addy, now my heart is speeding up. And I don't wanna love you, shorty, I just wanna fuck. Got angels on my shoulders, I got demons in my cup. I'm hardly ever out because it's hard for me to trust. Running through my cell phone, jotting down these.
So Alan Lazard is definitely a heck of a football player, that's for sure. And last season, what he did, I mean, he's definitely in the conversation for wide receiver too. And I think he at least since Brian Gutekunst didn't draft wide receiver, is definitely going to be the number 2 guy. And in the interview with Alan Lazard, Jimmy wrote about Alan's experiences in college and how effective he was in college. One thing that Lazard did really well last season was convert on third downs. He did it in Detroit. He did it in Minnesota. I remember that first game against the Lions last year. Lazard came out and basically saved the Packers from losing that game. And I know how close they were to losing that game. I get it. The whole ref thing was controversial. Aaron Rodgers came out after the game, was like, yeah, the refs weren't too good, but also this kind of evens out for some of the crap we've had to deal with over the years. Well, turns out that Alan Lazard was a saving grace last year, and especially on third down. So from Jimmy's interview with Alan Lazard, Lazard said, I think it was some crazy stat that 65% of my career catches were third down conversions. And that's, I went back and looked at the stats, and it's basically the same amount. Lazard on third down was clutch in college, and so far on the Packers, he has been clutch. There's no doubt about that. I think even if the Packers drafted a wide receiver, he would start off as the second wide receiver on the Packers roster because Geronimo Allison is gone. The Packers obviously didn't bring back Jimmy Graham, not that it mattered. But one thing to watch for is the Packers have Josiah DeGuara now, which means they could kick out Sternberger to the slot. That is absolutely something to watch for in terms of how the Packers want to play football with their tight end / wide receiver, because Jay Sternberger definitely has some experience in the slot. And he said so when we interviewed him last week, that he's expected to play more in the slot, move away from that run blocking tight end, I should say. And I think you're going to see some Jay Sternberger make an appearance, not quite of what Gronk did, just running seams down the middle of the field, but I definitely think the Packers could use Sternberger in that way. I mean, the guy's athletic as heck. He definitely knows his role. And I think with the acquisition of Josiah DeGuara, Jay Sternberger's position on the Packers is going to change. His role is going to change. Not entirely. He'll obviously still be a tight end, but I think the way they use him is going to be different. I think DeGuara is going to be more of that H-back, fullback, run blocking tight end that we saw out of Mercedes Lewis. Now, remember, the Packers did bring back Mercedes Lewis on a 1-year deal. So that is also something to watch for. So today is obviously a special day. I want to give a shout out to Aaron Jones. Happy Cinco de Mayo from Aaron Jones in this infamous hat. Especially one thing I love is the sweatshirt there. The Anthony Barr quote when the Packers beat the Vikings. If you guys do not remember, the Packers were losing to the Vikings, I think, early on in the game, the second game of last season. Aaron Jones fumbled the ball. On the first possession of that game, Anthony Barr walked up to Aaron Jones and said, if the lights are too bright for you, get off the field. And basically, Aaron Jones flipped a switch after that, and he was off to the races. So good for Aaron Jones for trolling the Minnesota Vikings the way he did there, because it's true. Anthony Barr, the lights weren't too bright for Aaron Jones there, and he definitely lit it up. So if you are celebrating accordingly, happy Cinco de Mayo for Packers fans everywhere, because there are Packers fans everywhere. And one more thing about that Vikings game is Mike Zimmer was so disrespectful after that game. I'm not trying to push any false information here, but I remember when Aaron Jones ran over the Minnesota Vikings that night. Mike Zimmer for sure appreciated it with this handshake from Matt LaFleur after the game. That infamous picture there of Mike Zimmer barely acknowledging Matt LaFleur after that second game. That was the night the Packers won the NFC North. You have to love it. You have to love salty Vikings fans. because the Vikings get this close to winning the division, and they absolutely screw it up because they got Kirk Cousins in prime time, and you got to love Captain Kirk in primetime football. The guy is amazing. In other news, one guy that Packers fans have been talking about on social media is bringing two guys, actually, the Packers thought about bringing back. One is Mike Daniels, the other is Clay Matthews. Mike has been working his butt off lately, and I definitely think that Packers should give him a look because they need some help kind of in the D-tackle position. I know they have Kenny Clark, but bringing back Mike Daniels on a veteran's minimum contract probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Mike is a workhorse. I think the only reason why they wouldn't is because obviously, so the Lions have released Mike Daniels. He is currently a free agent. I wouldn't think Brian Gutekunst would bring back Mike Daniels just because of Daniels' injury history, but I would think that Daniels would like a shot at being on any football team at this point. And if it would be one that maybe the Packers could bring back, maybe he could play anywhere from 20 to 40 snaps a game, something lighter contract there. But if you haven't seen it already, this is what Mike Daniels looks like on his Twitter feed. So Mike Daniels has been working his butt off as usual. I mean, that's all the guy does. He's a workhorse for sure. I think he'd be great to have back in that defensive line room. But at the same time, it's a business decision. The Packers are obviously a business. Would it be worth bringing him back? Maybe. I would like to see Mike Daniels back. I'm sure there's other Packers fans out there who would like to see Mike Daniels back. But we'll have to see. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I think Brian Gutekunst is either not even thinking about bringing Mike Daniels back, and if he is, he's probably going to wait a few months to see kind of what happens with the whole quarantine thing, NFL thing. We don't know. Who knows? But if the Packers brought back Mike on a veteran's minimum, that would be cool. And last thing I had planned for tonight was Za'Darius Smith. So Za'Darius Smith, if you guys haven't been paying attention, are following Za'Darius on Twitter. I would definitely recommend the follow. He's a super interesting guy off the football field for sure. He has been going back to his hometown in Alabama. I can't remember the city off the top of my head, but in Alabama, he's been providing meals for those who need them during this time of quarantining and people losing their jobs and needing food. So Za'Darius has been putting his newly minted Packers check to work and being a real hero out there. So what he has done is he basically is asking for Packers fans to submit him a sack dance competition in which the winner gets $500. So if you want to participate in that, here's what that sounds like.
Hey guys, it's Za'Darius Smith.
It's Za'Darius Smith. Guys, we're sitting at home bored and trying to figure out something to do for social media. So we want to have a grand prize of $1,000.
$1,000?
All right, we're going to split it. $500 apiece for the person who has the best sack dance. What you can do is upload your photo and tag me in it. See, there you go. You can tag me in it. We're going to announce the winners.
Right. So Za'Darius has definitely been trying to push his whole sack dance thing. Obviously, he got into it last year. Remember, if you guys remember the We Love Eileen shirt that he had prepped, ready to go, and he had his snubbed T-shirt that he used after a sack last season. So Za'Darius has been super into sacking NFC North quarterbacks, and there's an interview coming out with Packers defensive lineman Kenny Clark on Monday. I'm not going to say which quarterback he likes to sack the most because that's in the interview. I'm not going to give the surprise, but nonetheless, the quarterback is in the NFC North for sure. So thank you for all of you for following along on this quick little chat. Appreciate the following. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Share. Let us know what you think. We'll be here. We'll be here every week, chatting up with you guys, talking Packers. We'll see what happens next week. Maybe the Packers maybe they'll throw on some infamous Super Bowl game with the Packers losing to the Broncos, or who knows what, because the Packers have definitely been dunked on in the past week or two on social media. But at the same time, we have lots to look forward to. Obviously, with Za'Darius Smith Sack dances, Aaron Jones running all over the Minnesota Vikings, and I mean, come on. One last thing to wait for on Thursday is the Packers schedule release. I know some people get super hyped up over this. I've never been super hyped over a schedule release. Like, I get it. I get the excitement. You get to see who the Packers play, when they play these teams. The opponents have already been announced, so the Packers they're going to be evenly matched for their competition level from last season. But we'll see what happens, because it's the NFL and everybody always thinks they're correct with their NFL scheduling predictions. The one guy, though, last year who actually got it correct was former Packers wide receiver James Jones on NFL Network. He said the Packers were going to go 13-3. And I remember when that happened, everybody thought he was crazy, almost including myself. But turns out James Jones was right. And here we are. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to watch for the Packers schedule release, I believe 7 p.m. Central Time on Thursday. And that's all I got. So thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next Tuesday. We might be back before then. Go follow us on Twitter at Cream City Central if you haven't already. Also follow our Packers account, part of Cream City Central, at the Lambeau Lead on Twitter. I'm Josh, your host. Have a good night, everybody.